What if I told you that 1 in 4 college students in America has an STI? Don't worry, I can make it worse. 80% of that 1 in 4 don't know they have an STI. I'm a health student, so I think it's crazy that there are people that don't know about the things going on with their body. But I realize that when it comes to sex, the only reason I know more than other people is because I took a human sexuality elective in college. So when I was asked what policy would I change to help our community, I knew exactly what to pick. Sex education has been shown to have a positive impact on the health of teens and adolescents, and therefore should be required to be taught in all high schools by the U.S. Department of Education. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how the lack of sex education in America is negatively impacting us, how this policy change would inform and educate the masses about sexual health, and how this would improve sex crimes in America as well as the sexual health of everybody in America. So, as a health student, you can see why I would have a need for this, but I'm going to tell you why our society would greatly benefit from this and how it's being negatively impacted. So recently, there has been some reform in sex education, but the main problem is that not all the states can agree on what should be taught. The Guttmacher Institute reports that there are 39 states and the District of Columbia that mandate some sort of sex education, and guess what? Texas is not in those 39. So as you can see here on this chart, the pink states mandate only sex education. The gray states mandate only STI/HIV education. The dark red states mandate that both be taught in some capacity. The gray states have no mandated curriculum, and the states that are slashed with white stress abstinence over other things like contraception. So, as you can see, there's a lot of ambiguity to what should be taught and what shouldn't. To break this down a little more, all 39 require that abstinence be taught in some capacity, but only 20 require that contraception be taught as well as abstinence. There are 19 that require teaching the importance of being married before you have sex. There are 19 that require the focus on the negative impacts of teen pregnancy and teen sex in general, and there are 6 that require only negative information be presented on homosexuals. That same Guttmacher report called into question the credibility of what is being taught, stating that only 18 states require medically accurate information. Only 9 states require that the information be culturally unbiased, and only 3 states require that religion not be integrated. Some other statistics, not talking about state rates, but just rates of people in general. The University of Southern California Nurses Department said that the age range of 15 to 24, which only accounts for 25% of the population, accounts for 50% of all new STI cases. And you can see here it's broken down by STI. You have chlamydia on the left, gonorrhea in the middle, and HIV on the right. And the darkest parts of those are the 15 to 24 range. So you can see that it's a big chunk of who's getting these STIs. The U.S. also is still the highest of any developed nation when it comes to teen birth rates, which is crazy to me. There is also a trend with states that don't require sex education with contraception. These states have the highest teen STI rates and the highest teen birth rates. So, as you can see, there's a clear and imminent need for sex education to be taught in high schools. Now I'm going to talk to you about how this policy should be implemented and what should be included to improve the sexual health of teenagers. So the main thing here is that it's not just abstinence. Teenagers have sex and they need to be able to ask questions about sex. So teaching them that abstinence is the only way creates a large stigma around sex for teenagers. Other things that should be included is puberty. This is essential because it's how and why your body is changing. They could also address sexual orientations as well as how to express yourself healthily. Maybe most important is contraception. Contraception is the only way we can lower the rates of teen birth rates and STI transmission. They need to know the differences between different contraception and that some don't prevent pregnancy and some don't prevent STIs. You have your classic condom and female condom, which are barrier methods, and those prevent both, but a lot of these other ones, like the UID, the hormonal ring, the oral contraception, don't prevent STIs, and that's a common misconception. Another thing is focusing mainly on STIs, information about how they present, where you can go get tested, and the risk factors associated with STI transmission. The book Human Sexuality: Making Informed Decisions states the 4 risk factors of STI transmission are exposure, which is the rate of an uninfected person and an infected person having sexual contact; transmission, the chance that an STI is transmitted to one person who's not infected; the duration, which is the extended period of time that you can transmit one; and then the level of arousal, which just means that the higher level of arousal, the more likely you are to transmit an STI. So like I said, stigma is a big part of the reason why we need sexual education. It can help relationship model as well, which includes modeling healthy practices in a relationship, such as asking for the sexual history of your partner. And it also shows healthy ways to express yourself, as well as how to identify toxic or violent behaviors in a relationship. Maybe the one that's most important that needs to be taught, going with all the Me Too movement and stuff, is defining consent. There are a lot of people who think they can define consent, but when you actually ask them, they could not put into words what consent really is. So now that we know what to fix and how to fix it, I'm going to tell you how fixing sexual education would greatly benefit our society. So creating a requirement, not just to teach it, but for the content, would help get rid of this graph and its discrepancies, and instead just teach one thing throughout the entire America, which would help just the sexual health of everybody. That nurse program from the University of Southern California also states that sex ed has already decreased teen pregnancy this whole past decade, and it's the lowest it's ever been in America. So I don't know why we wouldn't just continue to build upon that and make that rate go down, because it is the highest in the developed world. Just in general, making more informed decisions about health and consent is really good for the entire population. It would help mitigate sex crimes and sexual violence, which is something that I think is good. So overall, it's important for teens and adolescents to know about their body and be able to ask questions without being stigmatized. So to conclude, I'm going to remind you of this need for sex education in high schools and how you can help advocate for this. So like I said, the age range of 15 to 24 accounts for 50% of STI cases, and 1 in 4 college students has one. We also have the highest teen birth rate of the developed world, and this is why we need sexual education. It would just help remove the stigma and help so many people be more healthy. So, like I said, sexual education has shown a positive impact on health of teens and adolescents and should be required by the United States Department of Education to be taught in high schools everywhere. To help advocate for this policy, you can call on public and elected officials to expand and reform sex education, as well as supporting local programs that advocate for that. To advocate more, go for advocatesforyouth.org to learn more about advocating for this policy. Thank you.